Just statement issued by the United States State Department as blanket condemnation. And Putin hails multifaceted cooperation of Africa with Russia. Hello viewers, I'm Daniel Kasahun with this news hours. The United States Department has issued a statement determining that certain grave crimes were committed during the conflict in the northern part of Ethiopia. In a statement it issued today, Ethiopia said, considering the report of the joint investigation by the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, HRC, and the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, UNOHCHR, the United States stance does not contain any findings. The statement said that Addis Ababa does not accept the blanket condemnations contained in the statement and does not see any value in such a unilateral and adversarial approach. The statement by the United States State Department is selective as it unfairly apportions blame among different parties in the conflict. For no apparent reason, the statement appears to exonerate one party from certain allegations of human rights violations, such as rape and other forms of sexual violence, despite the clear and overwhelming evidence about its culpability, it added. The Minister of Foreign Affairs further underscored that this partisan and divisive approach from the United States is ill-advised, as Ethiopia is implementing the peace agreement. Such apportioning of blame is unwarranted and undercuts the support of the United States for an inclusive peace process in Ethiopia, it underlined. Meanwhile, the United States' consistent tactic of taking sides while condemning alleged human rights abuses might splash cold water on the initiative of the Ethiopian government towards transitional justice. Although Ethiopia has time and again opened its doors for a neutral probe into alleged war crimes during the conflict in Tigray, the United States and other Western forces are bent on frustrating that efforts with inflammatory remarks such as the one by the State Department. That's why the following reportage by our star reporter Tigist Nessa will be telling us.
We might look powerless in the face of a block of countries, which we have faced it during the Second World War. But I want to assure you, Mr. Chair, the spirit of our soul is strong. That soul is not only to stand to be an Ethiopian, but also to bring peace and as well as resolve our challenges. We cannot let the fate of 120 million people into a handful of experts. But having said that, we will always welcome well-meaning actors, but not those who already made the decision to condemn and censor and put us to death.
Ethiopia has been forced to experience a devastating war on 4 November 2020, right after the TPLF brutally attacked its federal army barracks. During the 2 years of this war, multiple foreign actors intentionally played their role behind closed doors under the disguise of aid, for the most part only massively contributing for the prolongation of the war. Fast forward, this deadly war has finally ended when on 2 November 2022, a peace settlement has been reached between the government of Ethiopia and the TPLF, where both parties agreed to a permanent cessation of hostility to end the war in Tigray, which this could be taken as manifestation in efforts of Ethiopian government giving peace a chance. Ethiopia being strategically situated at a very horn of the region, with its soon-to-be finalized mega dam project that will be expected to light the entire Horn region Also, countless arable land potential coupled with conducive climate condition continue to help it become the center of attention. With this, Ethiopia has become or has always been the best place to exploit from. Ethiopia has solved the war-related issues under the auspices of the African Union. The US seems not to buy it. One time, the US shows a conciliatory face, seeking to normalize soured relations by sending its foreign minister, only to dash all hopes a week later by issuing an inflammatory statement. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Monday that members of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, its allies from the Eritrean Army and Amhara Regional Forces, and opposing forces loyal to the TPLF, committed war crimes during the two-year conflict. With this, the U.S. has beyond any doubt made it clear that it is bent on picking a side, my way or the highway style, thus resonating its true colors. Blinken's announcement came less than a week after he traveled to Ethiopia to meet with government officials and a TPLF representative. He praised progress in implementing a November truce while cautioning that more work needed to be done. Such apportioning of blame is unwarranted and undercuts support of the U.S. for an inclusive peace process in Ethiopia. The U.S. determination was selective, since it exonerated Tigrayan forces from accusations of rape and sexual violence. Conflict, which was rooted in power struggle between Tigrayan leaders and the federal government, killed tens of thousands of people, left hundreds of thousands facing hunger, and displaced millions. Ethiopia has taken the first step towards transitional justice every way possible, apart from drafting a policy document and kickstarting discussions on mechanisms to bring justice. The government has been dutifully trying to restore its ties with the U.S., which still provides the large amount of aid to it. But the U.S. Department, instead of appreciating and showing support to Ethiopia, has opted to restore its arm-twisting tactics. Whenever one considers the reason with why U.S. had been in Afghan for 20 years now, the answer will be to have made the geopolitical interest of the U.S. at the cost of innocent Afghans' lives and many other more countries as well.
It's time to bring our people back home.
To end America's longest war.
The U.S. will soon complete its withdrawal of forces from Afghanistan.
Alarming images.
Taliban fighters have flooded the capital.
They're American-made weapons in the hands of Taliban fighters.
Many of the Afghans trying to escape actually helped American armed forces.
It was quite clear that it was going to come to this.
I stand squarely behind my decision.
You're watching this news hour. The Council of Ministers in its 18th regular meeting thoroughly discussed various issues and passed decisions today. Accordingly, the Council first discussed the bill on state-owned public development enterprises. After discussion with the proposed bill, the Council unanimously decided to refer it to the Parliament for approval with additional inputs. Subsequently, the Council discussed the draft bill to approve Ethiopia's agreement with the Luxembourg government in the Swiss Confederation to abolish double taxation and prevent tax evasion. The agreement that Ethiopia has made with the two governments to avoid double taxation and to prevent tax evasion have a significant contribution in encouraging the investors of the two countries. After discussing the draft bills, the Council unanimously decided to refer them to the Parliament for approval with additional inputs. Finally, the Council discussed the draft regulation to revise the establishment of the Ethiopia Railway Corporation. It unanimously decided to increase the authorized capital to 221 billion birr to have better capacity for future railway projects and its capacity paid in cash and in kind to 120 billion birr. As a result of thorough discussion, the Council unanimously approved the regulation with additional inputs and decided to put it into effect from the day it's published in the Nagarit Gazette.
Welcome to the land of origins. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia is pleased to serve all your traveler banking needs. If you have money from any of these 16 countries, you can convert it to local currency by visiting our nearest branch. Alternatively, our secure Forex ATMs accept cash exchange, or if you prefer using your cards, we've partnered with Visa, MasterCard, and UnionPay so that you can withdraw cash from our local ATMs or make cashless transactions at thousands of local POS partners securely and with confidence. We are linked with more than 700 global banks through our direct SWIFT address, CBE Teta. We also work with 16 international money transfer agents, out of which Tune and WorldRemit enable you to make direct deposits into our savings and current accounts or our popular CBE Burr mobile wallet. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, the bank you can always rely on.
Thank you for being accompanying with this news hour. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Demika Mekonnen, has conferred with Yemeni Foreign Minister Ahmed Awad bin Mubarak. During the deliberations, Mekonnen briefed the Yemeni Foreign Minister on current affairs, working to consolidate the peace process is key priority for Ethiopia, he noted. The Foreign Minister currently emphasized the need to capitalize on the historical ties between the two countries that predicate not only on interest but also age-old people-to-people relations, while underscoring the need to further bolster the multifaceted ties. The Foreign Minister urged Mubarak to work closely towards the reactivation of relations. Mubarak, for its part, said Yemen and Ethiopia need political consultations. He also said the government of Yemen will assist the government of Ethiopia to expedite the voluntary repatriation of Ethiopians in Yemen. The International Youth Fellowship, IYF, said it has been vigorously working to improve the mindset of African youth to alleviate problems to bringing new novel ideas. Talking to ETV, IYF Director for Africa said participating deep thinking and thought is said to be vital to improve the lives of youth in Africa. Haptam Mashagri has the details.
Youth accounts over 70% of the total population in Africa. Every socio-economic and political complication is affecting this vast number in the continent. Talking to TV English program, International Youth Fellowship Directors in Africa said International Youth Fellowship is tirelessly working African users to improve deep thinking and self-control skill to improve their lives in the continent.
We emphasize the three factors of the mind education. The first one is every individual must be able to think deeply rather than thinking just the first or second level of understanding or react into the reality. So the mind education navigates people to think deeply. And second, we do teach and guide people to control their desires, which is self-control. Although the car has a strong engine and powerful horsepower, but if it doesn't have the functional brakes, the car can easily cause accident. So in such aspect, we train the young people to control their desire so that they are able to build their future in a bright way.
International Youth Fellowship is working to improve the mindset of users in Africa by rendering list of activities in Africa. Over 8 million users in Ethiopia have got youth training program aiming to improve their life.
In case of Ethiopia, so far we have addressed to 8.1 million youth through various programs. I can come up with about 10 major categories of activities, such as firstly, the first one is a mindset education, and after the education, we also try to give a different platform for the youth in the world, but mostly in Ethiopia. For example, in 2018, we had 9th Africa Universities game in Mekelle University. That time, we had recruited about 1,000 volunteers, and then we trained them to be the global worker, for them to have the global sense of ushering, management, and the communication to usher 10,000 people to the African game. And also we had a marathon, and also we had a Korean class and K-pop class and Taekwondo training as well.
The director underlined that International Youth Fellowship is targeting to expand its scope and mission in Africa to scrap socio-economic bottlenecks in Africa in the near future.
You are watching the live transmission of this news hour. France has today donated 962 new children's books to the Aberholt Library, which is based in Addis Ababa. Speaking at the event, Head of Cooperation and Culture with the French Embassy, Sophie Makami, recalled that a year ago, the Cooperation Department of the Embassy of France in Ethiopia was approached by the management team of the Aberholt Library wishing to develop a foreign language section in the library. Hence, the Embassy of France acquired a set of 932 little books in French language dedicated to Ethiopian children to serve as the foundation of a French language corner in Aberholt Library, she disclosed. According to Makam, the newly designed permanent French language corner at Aberholt Library is therefore the place for all French-speaking people in Addis Ababa, including Ethiopian children who speak French and children from French-speaking countries. The Addis Ababa University managed Aberholt Library is currently among one of the biggest in Africa. The renowned Ethiopian veteran environmental scientist and advocate and champion of the Earth Award winner, Tewolde Birhan ገብረእግዚአብሔር drew his latest breath at the age of 83 in Addis Ababa. ገብረእግዚአብሔር was born on 19 February 1940 in a small village near Adwa town of the Tigray State region of northern Ethiopia. The brother of renowned writers Sibhat ገብረእግዚአብሔር Tewolde attended Negeste Saba, Queen of Sheba Elementary School in Adwa from October 1951 to June 1955. The Right Livelihood Award 2000 and the Champions of the Earth 2006 are two of his awards for the exemplary effort he put into environmentalism. Kazanjan has more.
Tewolde Birhan ገብረእግዚአብሔር, an Ethiopian veteran environmental scientist, was born on February 19, 1940, received the Right Livelihood Prize in 2000 for his outstanding work to conserve biodiversity and customary rights of farmers and communities to their genetic resources. ገብረእግዚአብሔር was born in Adwa, a town in Tigray region, on 19 February 1940. He is a brother a renowned author, writer, Sibhat ገብረእግዚአብሔር. From October 1951 to June 1955, he was a student at the Negeste Saba, Queen of Sheba Primary School in Adwa. From September 1955 to July 1959, ገብረእግዚአብሔር attended General Wingate Secondary School in Addis Ababa. Upon his acceptance, he enrolled at Addis Ababa, formerly Haile Selassie the First University in Addis Ababa, where he studied from September 1959 to July 1963 and received the Chancellor's Gold Medal for being the Faculty of Sciences top graduate. He studied at the School of Plant Biology, University of North Wales from October 1966 to November 1969 and was awarded a PhD under Professor P. Gregor Smith. He worked in a biology department at Addis Ababa University from 1966 1963, serving as a graduate assistant, assistant lecturer, and assistant professor. He was appointed Dean of the Faculty of Science in 1974 and served in his capacity until 1978, when he was appointed Associate Professor of Biology. From 1980 to 1996, he was the project leader of the Ethiopian Flora Project. He was appointed President of Asmara University in 1983 and held this post until 1994. Since March 1995, he has served as the General Manager of the Ethiopian Environmental Protection Authority. Gabra Xabiher was instrumental in securing recommendations from the Organization of African Unity, OAU, encouraging African countries to develop and implement community rights, a common position on trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, and a clear stance against patents on life. Moreover, Gabra Xabiher was recognized as one of the champions of the Earth Award recipients for 2006 by the United Nations. Before his passing, he served on the World Future Council. Dr. Tolda has written 38 research articles on how society and the environment have interacted throughout Ethiopia's history, as well as at the global level. Dr. Tolda's 3 daughters are his only survivors.
May his soul rest in peace. He was really champion of environmental protection. Moving to the other news, the African Union Development Agency says supporting micro, small and medium enterprises is crucial to enable the economy in Africa grow much faster in a sustainable way. The African Union Member States Stakeholders Engagement Summit for the 100,000 micro and small scale enterprises project is now taking place in Addis Ababa to discuss its implementation and raise African GDP. Once again, here is Kasan Jani for the details.
Head of Human Capital and Institutional Development Division at Aldani Part SAD. Support for micro, small and medium enterprises program started as an initiative of African Development Commission to reach 1 million MSMEs by the end of 2024. She explained that the target is to reach all 55 member states of the AU. However, they have reached about 20 countries in terms of actual engagement with the member states.
The idea is to support the micro, small and medium enterprises that are struggling to access affordable, predictable, more long-term financing for their businesses. It's also to train them on understanding better how to do business in terms of equipping them with knowledge on business and entrepreneurial skills, upskilling them in those spaces, and also creating a platform for them to network with each other.
Assistant Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Industrial Development of Mauritius on his part. It was a great opportunity for all African countries of the AU member states and Nepal to be participating and committed in this initiative to promote the growth of MSMEs in all the continent.
The SMEs, as you are already aware, contribute a lot in employment and in the GDP of each individual country that represent Africa. So promoting them, helping them, upholding them is a must to each institution, public and private sector institution, to uplift and to help grow those SMEs so that the economy can grow much faster and in a sustainable way.
Senior Partnership Manager at a freelance based in Abidjan, Nigeria, on her part said that MSMEs contribute directly to job and wealth creation in various countries.
When we talk about MSMEs, their role in building a national economy and by extension the African economy cannot be overemphasized. They contribute directly to job creation and, wealth creation in the various countries. However, we see that these MSMEs face different challenges, ranging from, capacity building, access to funding, access to markets.
The African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, out an NEPAD 100,000 MSMEs initiative is aligned with the African Union Agenda 2063, which aims at building a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. The initiative aims at supporting MSMEs in a continent with access to finance, capacity building, networking, introduction to new markets, and procurement opportunities.
The Russian Federation expressed its readiness to supply its grain to African countries in great need at no expense if the current deal expires with no extension. The remark came while President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, addressed the International Parliamentary Conference underway, themed Russia-Africa in a multipolar world. Russia is reliably fulfilling all its obligations pertaining to the supply of food, fertilizers, fuel, and other products that are critically important to the countries of Africa. The President also highlighted cooperation between Russia and African countries in education is at a traditionally high level, and about 27,000 African students are currently studying in Russia, including 5,000 whose education is covered by the federal budget. Putin hailed the continued multifaceted cooperation of the African continent with Russia. The serious effects of climate change is hitting the planet faster than expected. This according to a panel of the United Nations climate scientists, which has just published its latest report. Commenting on the release, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the world needs to act faster. Shagai Mato brings us up to speed.
Extreme weather has been hitting the world hard for decades now, with catastrophic consequences: heat waves, droughts, storms, floods, and melting Arctic ice. All this time, scientists and UN experts have been calling to limit the speed of global warming. Today, they are sending a familiar message: time is crucial.
Humanity is on thin ice, and that ice is melting fast. As today's report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, details, humans are responsible for virtually all global heating over the last 200 years. The rate of temperature rise in the last half-century is the highest in 2,000 years. Concentrations of carbon dioxide are at their highest in at least 2 million years. The climate time bomb is ticking.
That is why rich countries are being asked to become climate neutral by 2040, which means they need to reach their CO2 goals even faster than planned. What happens in the rest of the decade is extremely important. One problem is that a lot of money is still being spent on fossil fuel extraction and not on curbing climate change. The current amount needs to be increased by 300 to 600%. Yes, there is hope. The UN experts say they have the necessary scientific knowledge to limit climate change. The financial backing is also there, at least in theory. They just have to be used in the right place.
Let's remind you just the headlines of the hour. Ethiopia rejects assessment issued by the United States Department as blanket condemnations. And Vladimir Putin hails a multifaceted cooperation of Africa with the Russian Federation. That's all for this edition. Thank you for your company. Blessed and stay safe.